Hey, it's Joe, and I'm back with another roofing tutorial. This one's a little bit more advanced, and you can create some interesting effects, even if they are mostly just visual and not particularly functional. This is a little dormer window gabled effect, which they actually do function, but you have to have a fairly large house. This is actually a little bit too modest of a house to have much use. If you go upstairs and you look at it with the roof down, you can actually see that there is a small room in there that has the two dormers in it. Going back up, you can see that it's two small roofs with two blocks of wall built into the roof, and then of course the windows function as normal. To create just normal dormers with no function, you can't actually put a window on it. So you can create just a normal little square dormer roof, but then you can't put a window on it. So let me delete what I've got here, and then I'll show you how it's built by making one for you. Let's delete all of that. Now, this is now, if you drop the roof, you can see it's gone back to plain. So let's start. The first thing you need is you need to create a square. If you put it right in front, it's actually too large. There you go. Let's raise the walls. The dormer, you don't get much of a dormer look because just grab that. It's just too high. If you put a roof on that, roof's just a tad too big. Should have rotated it first, but there you have it. And put it on. Now you've got your dormer, but as you can see, the effect is just, it just looks like a column with a roof on it. Even if we remove all of the eaves, it still looks very, very odd. The dormers tend to look a little bit better on the insides with a bit of an eave. So what you actually need to do is you actually need to move it into the roof. Let's grab that and move it one tile in if the game will allow me without going bonkers. Alright, it's moved off center, but never mind. Now, let's move the roof over that. And now you've got your dormer. Okay, if we pick the same color as the house, I've chosen a nice scarlet so that everything stands out and you can actually see what it looks like. You can pick a window, any kind of window, but preferably something that will fit. You see, that's too large. You need to pick a very particularly small window that will actually fit into there. Now, if we drop the roof, let's go up. You can actually see you've got a tiny little square of a room with the window in it. And if you go up, the roof loads. Now, that's how you create a basic dormer window. You would obviously duplicate this. Copy. It's a bit tricky because it often places it at weird. You see now it's gone up one. It's pretty tricky placing things virtually. So sometimes you have to do multiple takes and then you just move it back. Hopefully it's in its place, and there you go. You can copy that, plonk it on there, and you have two dormers, just like that. Now, of course, these are just, if we drop, it's just two tiny little rooms which are absolutely no use. So if you go back to your tool, you can actually create a room behind it. It may actually stick out to the roof. There you go, you see. So now you need to adjust. You need to go back. You can just grab the room, move it backwards, and inwards like that. Although it's now trying to, it's trying to think for me. So there you go. If you move it in, and we extend this room by pulling the arrows into the dormer, probably overwritten the wallpapers. Now if we go back up, see we still got the dormers, and pick the same wallpaper and just color it in. We've still got the two dormers built into the roof, but we've got the walls inside. So now we've actually got a little room inside with the windows on the outside. And there's your dormers. If you have a particularly large house, you can actually turn the upstairs attic into a workable space. But as you can see, the roof never drops properly, so you can never have the walls raised. If you start putting any kind of furniture in there, you can never ever have Oops, let's make a laundry room here. There you go. You can never raise the walls because you can never see anything. It drops away, but the roof pops up. So it doesn't work. It's mostly for effect, or if you have a very, very large house, you have a decent space up there. So that's Dormers 101. But now what about creating something slightly different than just your straight line roofs? If you see in plan view, and in most views, and sometimes it drops below the roof and you can't see it, there's this little ball here that actually changes how round or how concave your roof is. If you pull it outwards, you get this lovely sort of mansard type roof. The more you go out, the more rounded it is, the higher the inside area of the attic is. If you bring it down, you get a very bizarre sort of concave roof, but this could work quite well for oriental type of roofs. So if we just take it to a mediocre pitch there, you get a, whoops, if the game can just stop going berserk, you get a very interesting roof, which of course doesn't work very well with tiles because it tends to look a little bit odd. But if you take a different type of roofing material, let's say the sheeting, you now get a very interesting looking roof. But now if you want to take it a step further, you can actually take the roof and copy it and rotate it, like so. Now you have a very unusual roof that crisscrosses. Of course, the house below doesn't keep up with the top of the... So what we can do is grab that, copy it, and rotate it, so we have a perfectly symmetrical house. Look at that. You have a really odd shaped house. This can work well for, say, temples or mosques or even churches or just institutional type of structures. Can have a very interesting look with this. But why stop there? We're not limited to just plain old boring rectangular roofs or square roofs. So let's go for something a little bit more unusual. Let's start with a pyramid roof. And if you grab the topmost arrow, that's the one that changes your pitch and your height. Let's pull it all the way up so it gives you sort of almost that fairy castle type of roof. Now, on its own, it looks pretty odd. But now let's start to combine it. What if we add a circle to it? Alright, let's go back to top view, because now we can't see it. Let's pull it out. Let's make it a little bit bigger. One tile bigger. Oh, look at that. We've suddenly got a really odd, almost Harry Potter hat look. If we change the pictures on these things, we can create even more unusual looks. If we take it down, and then we grab the top one and also take that down, now we get a slightly more, almost like a hut look. Take it up a little bit more, and you get a sort of very strange, almost odd. The game will cooperate for a moment. Of course, the roof material also has a big impact on how these things look. For the most part, normal roof tiles don't work all that well. If you try and use these, they sort of tend to look a little bit odd because they were just never designed to look this way. However, if you use either plain materials or roof sheeting, as I had earlier, you get a very unusual look. But really, why stop there? Let's pick up a octagonal roof and plonk it down. Let's see what we can do with this. Pull it up. Again, we get a sort of fairy tale Gothic look. But let's combine that with the hipped pyramid roof. Let's bring that out. Now, it gives you a completely different look. Once you begin to increase the heights, change the curvature, you can create all sorts of very unique looks. If you take it really high, you can create almost like a bell tower type of look. If you arch that one, you get a completely unusual roof. Take that in and bring the pyramid roof up a little bit, and you get almost like a sort of gazebo kind of effect. Look at that. Of course, the choice of materials will impact on the final look, but there's no reason why you need to be fixed by one type of roof. Let's bring that back to full shape. You can also obviously make it less of a dramatic effect. You can even bring it right down. So you have almost like a crisscrossing roof effect. Choice of materials will obviously impact what it looks like. You can even combine two different types of roofs for an unusual effect. Of course, yeah, custom roofs here are going to work best. Custom roof materials, I should say. Similarly, you could combine the circular roof with one of the pyramid type roofs, or even the hexagonal roof. Start combining that, and you also get even more unusual shapes, especially when you stretch them. In this case, you need to extend the eaves out and actually make the roof a little bit bigger because it's not covering the actual house. Look at that. Almost looks like a golfing estate type of entrance roof. Again, play with the curvatures. You can get the very narrow steeple effect. Not working properly. There we go. Let's grab that. That's sort of more Angkor Wat type of roof, isn't it? So you're not limited by the kind of roofs you can create, only by your imagination. So try and combine all of these different types of roofs for unusual effects. Let's even try a very simple roof. Let's try just that's the wrong one. So let's just grab a plain old gabled roof and put it over our house. Let's say you're building a church. Look at that. You can actually create a steeple-like effect in the roof. Just get the angle right. And there you go. One church. So, go forward and really put some interesting roofs on your houses. There's no more reason to have really dull roofs. Now, what if we return to our sort of mosque temple look and combined even a third roof to it? This becomes a bit more tricky, and you probably need to go into top view. This is very tricky to put to position. However, when you get it centered, the game will just allow me to place it. Perhaps make this a little bit bigger so it actually it's not quite centered, so let's move that a tiny bit. There you go. If the roof doesn't protrude enough, what you need to do is go in and manipulate it, make it slightly bigger. Pull it evenly in both directions and you suddenly get the steeple. You could create endless amount of unusual roofs with this effect, and of course you can also change the roof pattern. So go forward and just combine every possible roof pattern until you get something that you're happy with. If you enjoyed this video, do remember to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. Thanks so much for watching this tutorial.